So my good friend Mike Chavez made a green chili chicken corn chowder and put it up on YouTube, and Tom lost his mind. So I told him that I would try to make it for him, and Mike Chavez told me that when I did, to make sure that I recorded it so that everybody else could see it. So here we are. Tomorrow Tom has to fish in the Winter Blues tournament. The weather is going to be awful. Fortunately, I don't think we're getting that storm that's coming in until Sunday, but the temperature is going to plummet, and him and Aaron and Art from One Ton are going to be sitting on the bank all day long in 30-degree weather. So I thought I would make this today so that they would have something warm and hearty tomorrow while they're fishing. Mike used rotisserie chickens that he got at the grocery store, and I was out looking for rotisserie chickens, and I went to 2 grocery stores and neither one of them had it. So I ended up roasting my own chicken. Ugh. But because I had to do that, I have a base already of a chicken stock. So I'm going to take this chicken out. It's cool now. I can touch it, but I didn't get a plate. Okay, and in here, because this is, these are all the juices from the chicken, I'm going to use this as part of the base for the stock. So I have 2 cups of hot water that I'm going to put in here, and it's just to loosen everything that's, the pan's been in the oven baking. I just want to loosen this all up. Yeah, the back skin is in there, and the fat is in there. And I'm just going to stir this until I kind of get all of this good stuff. This is where all the flavor is, out of this pan before I put it in my stock pot. Well, my Dutch oven, really. Because I'm going to do this all in one pan if I can. Alright, so I'm going to start with this as a chicken stock, but just like Mike did, I'm going to break down this chicken, take the meat off, the bones, the skin, the carcass, everything will go in the pot. I've got my aromatics here, my celery, onion, garlic, my jar of green hatch chilies that I went onto the video to make sure that I ordered the exact same one that Mike got when he ordered them. They come from Amazon, so you can get them there. But we're going to start out just like he did. I'm going to make a stock. I'm going to get that cooking and get this chicken broken down so that I can cut up that meat. And then when the stock is ready, we'll come back and I'll show you how to put this whole thing together. It's really, really simple. You just throw everything in the pot. You add a little corn, some potatoes, some half and half, done. It is, and it looks like it's just absolutely rich and thick and, would just warm you through, especially if you're sitting outside 30-degree weather fishing. So I'm going to get this started, and when the stock is ready, we'll come back and look at it, and then we'll keep on going. All right, so I have my chicken all broken down. There's all the meat in there. And I've put everything, the skin, the bones, the carcass, whatever meat was still stuck to the bones, along with the onions, the celery, the garlic, and I added 6 more cups of water. So I have about 8 cups of water in here. And I'm just going to bring this to a boil and then turn it down to simmer and just make a stock out of it and see what happens. Then I'm going to strain everything out, and then we're going to put the chowder together. Once that's done, it'll only take about 10 or 15 minutes. I have to peel some potatoes, and we're going to cook those in the stock that we're making. And then the whole thing is going to go together just like the clam chowder does. Potatoes with the stock, and then everything else will go into it, heat it through, and then you should be just about ready to go. I'm going to go watch the video again so that I can make sure that I do everything that Mike did so that I get this right. I am so looking forward to this. This sounds like this is going to be just delicious. I love corn chowder. Tom doesn't care for it, but you said green chilies and chicken, and he was all over it. So, Mike, if I have any problems, I'm going to be calling you, but I think this is going to be a good one. Okay, the potatoes are done. They're cooked and in a bowl right here. All right, the stock is sitting here waiting to go in here. But first I have to cook the bacon and the onions. So we're going to turn this on to medium low. And we're going to put some oil in here. Just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. I'm going to have to wait for that to heat up for a minute. I've got 1 medium onion diced. And because I make a lot of this, I'm going to make more than Mike did. So I'm going to use a lot more ingredients than he did, or bigger quantities. So I have about 6 pieces of bacon cut up here, ready to go in this pan. I used maybe 4 pounds of potatoes. I've got 2 quarts of stock ready to go. And the chicken that I roasted was 5 pounds of chicken, and maybe I have 3 pounds of meat. So I'm going to be using quite a bit here because, you know, I'm going to be feeding 3 guys all day tomorrow. So I want to make sure that I have more than enough. So I'm going to put the bacon in. This probably should have waited for the pan to heat up a little bit more, but it'll be all right. And you're just going to let that cook down. And when that's done, I'm going to take that out and then put the onions in and get those all caramelized. And then I'm going to put some flour in and kind of make like a little bit of a roux so that it'll thicken up a little bit. My paper plate for my bacon so that I don't dirty another dish. You all know I hate doing dishes. And I have to cut up this chicken because I just pulled it apart with my hands and just got it all off there. So, you know, I've got like whole pieces of chicken breast, and it's all going to have to be cut up into something more uniform. The potatoes are diced in about 1/2-inch dice. They took 6-7 minutes. And you just want to rend out all the fat on this bacon and get it, you know, a little on the crispy side. Not too much. You don't want to be eating this and then have something, you know, crunch. No. And the one thing that I did forget to buy was I forgot to buy fresh parsley. So I'm debating whether I'm going to leave that out or if I'm going to use the dried stuff. I think I'm just going to leave it out. Fresh parsley has an incredible flavor that dried parsley just can't compete with. So I'll probably just leave it out. I wouldn't want to ruin it at the very end by putting in something that isn't going to work. No. All right. So, get that going. Turn that down just a little bit. And we'll cut up some chicken. I know you can't see me do this, but I'm cutting chicken. What is there to say? The only other thing that I did was that I use white pepper where Mike uses black pepper. The only reason I use white pepper, I don't want to see it. You can buy this in the grocery store. I use it in eggs. I use it in something like this where I don't want to see little flecks of black. So, white pepper. It's the only thing I do differently. and the parsley. So I'm going to cut the chicken up like this. Just, you know, little cubes. You know, different sizes. It's already cooked. I mean, you just, you know, want to make it spoon size. Definitely don't want it, you know, big chunks of it. So, just gonna chop away here. Give the bacon a stir. And normally I would have had this chicken already cut up, but I'm working on, you know, I had to make regular dinner too, so I didn't get everything organized the way I usually do. But as long as I'm standing right here and can watch that bacon, I'm good. Like I said, this doesn't take any skill. It's just cutting it into manageable pieces and keep my eye on that bacon. Turn that down just a little bit more. Getting a little hot. That's almost done. Normally I would have this all done, everything cut and ready to go, everything in its own little bowl. Only because it makes it so much easier to cook, and believe it or not, it makes it easier to clean up. Because you just throw everything in the pot and then everything just goes in the dishwasher. So I'm just going to take this bacon out and get it all. Come on, come out of there. There you go. One more. All right. I'm just going to set this aside right now because it'll go in at the very end. I'm going to put the onion in there, right in this. Give that a little bit of a stir. You want to cook this until it starts to get soft. You don't really want a lot of color on it. Just making a base. And back to the chicken. So like I said, Tom and Aaron and Art are fishing in Chad's Winter Blues tomorrow. This is that second weekend. There's a Creole set a pretty high mark. So, we'll see what happens. The weather is going to play a big part in this. We had beautiful weather, and then it got cold, and now we're going to get snow and ice and all kinds of garbage. But I've got And I got my shovels out and my snow melt and all that stuff is in the house so that I can get out of my house. Living in Massachusetts, you learn how to do that at an early age. When they say snow, you bring all that stuff up where you can reach it so that you don't have to go out into the shed or the garage or to get it. You're right there at your fingertips. So, the 505 Southwestern medium flame roasted green chilies. It does say on the jar these are hatch chilies, which are the ones that, you know, New Mexico, they're really picky about their chilies, and these are the ones they grow. So these are just about ready. And this is my flour. Maybe a quarter of a cup. I'm just going to sprinkle that over the top. Like I said, we're going to make a roux. And you just want to cook this for a couple of minutes. And a roux is just equal parts of fat and flour cooked. You want to cook out the flour taste. It will definitely get thicker as you cook. Should be on low if you don't want to color it. I still have not succeeded in making a dark roux. The longer you let it cook, the darker it gets. And I'm always afraid I'm going to burn it. So I guess I just really need to buckle down and figure that out, because Tom wants me to try to make him some gumbo. I already make jambalaya and he loves it. And he would like me to try gumbo. And gumbo you have to have, if I recall correctly, and Creole can correct me if I'm wrong, what they call a chocolate roux. It's very, very dark brown before you start adding anything else into it. And I will have to go watch some videos on that. But I'm telling you, God bless Food Network, because this is where I learned how to do all this stuff. Stuff I never would have made before. I mean, I grew up in an Italian household, and I knew how to do all that. But stuff like this, nope. Nope. Oh. Alright, so. Another little gadget, it opens my jars for me. You hear that little pop? And the jar opens, and there's no more fighting with it. I might put half the jar in, and I'm going to put the whole thing, because like I said, I'm making more than he did. Stir that in, let that cook. Scrape the bottom, get all of that off. Like he said, deglaze that pan. All of that stuff stuck on the bottom of your pan is all flavor. And you just scrape it all up and get it all mixed in. And just let this heat. Turn that up a little bit now. Excuse me. And then we're going to add the stock. Oh, I got to get the corn. Yeah. I bought frozen corn only because it's, January and there is no corn. So most frozen foods, frozen vegetables, they flash freeze them when they harvest them. So they're basically, supposedly, just as good as when you get them in season. So instead of buying canned corn, I bought frozen corn so that I can see what that's like in here. Canned corn tends to be a little chewy and very waterlogged. So I have a 1 pound bag of frozen corn. Take this jar away. Okay, so, all right, this is bubbling now, and the bottom of my pot is clean now. Everything that was on it is gone. So, I'm going to add the stock. Here we go. And when you're pouring hot liquids, or not even hot liquids, but especially hot liquids, but when you're pouring something into a hot pan, always pour away from your face. All right, stir that up. And we're going to let that come back to a high simmer. And we're going to add everything else. I know this is nothing to look at. I'm sitting here waiting for the pot to boil. What is it? Watch pot never boils. But I need that to come back up to temperature before I can add all this other stuff. Come on, honey. Yes, I talked to the food. I talked to the food, I talked to the stove, I talked to the pans. And I have 7 children, and sometimes I get more of a response out of the food. So, like I said, I have about 3 pounds of chicken here, maybe a little bit more. It was quite a bit. That was a big chicken. 5.5 pounds is what it weighed. And the only thing that I threw away was the skin and the bones because, and that was after they were boiled out. So I got a lot out of that chicken. I bought 2 of them. And I got one in the refrigerator to make real roast chicken with, which is not difficult, by the way. And this particular one, I just did salt and pepper inside and outside, and a little bit of water in the bottom of the pan. And in the oven it went for about 1.5 hours. when it came out, that skin was perfectly golden and crispy. And I'm glad Tom didn't see it because he would have torn into it, but it needed to go in the pot for the stock. So I'm glad he wasn't here to see that. All right, so put the potatoes in because they're hot still. You know, everything that you put in the pan lowers the temperature of what's in the pan. The potatoes are still hot, so those I can put in rather than putting in, say, the corn, which is frozen. I want to make sure I bring this back up to temp before I put the corn in there. Or the chicken, which is room temperature, so that I could handle it. And Mike said he used half and half, but he wished he had heavy cream. I do have heavy cream. So I'm going to use that, and we will see what that looks like when I pour it in there. And of course that's cold too, so you want to make sure that this is at temperature before you start adding cold things to it. And usually that means, you know, at least simmering. It's starting to come up now. So we'll just give that a minute for it to start bubbling. So this looks absolutely fantastic when Mike did it, so I'm hoping that this comes out as good as his did. You know, and I know that all of you guys probably already know, but if you don't, it's Fishing Cooking with Mike Chavez. Fishing/cooking with Mike Chavez. You need to go check that out. He just did Korean fried chicken that I haven't seen yet. But he did this, and he did his beef jerky and barbecued wings. And yeah. All right. I'll put the chicken in. Give that a stir. Oh yeah, there's a huge pot. 8-quart Dutch oven here, people. 2 gallons. 2 gallons. You know, and Tom's not a big corn chowder fan, so I think I'm going to only use half this bag rather than the whole bag I was planning on. I think he'd appreciate the chicken and the potatoes more than the corn, so I'm just going to leave that. I used about half the bag. There's not much left. Ziploc bag's winning. Oh. Drop that back in my freezer so it doesn't thaw. Smells good. It smells really good. Of course, those green chilies. Yeah, buddy. Alright. So, before I put the cream in, I need to make sure that this comes back up to temperature. Now, cream and half, because it has cream in it, will not curdle in high temperatures like milk will. So that's why you use it in these things rather than, you know, a milk or whatever. Use a cream, because when you put cold cream in hot liquid, it will not curdle or separate, or it shouldn't. Watch. I shouldn't have said that. Honest to God. There are some days where my life is absolutely governed by Murphy's Law. And this would be one of those moments, because if it goes wrong, I have nothing. I have no food. I have no video. I have nothing. Now, fortunately for me, I have a keep warm setting on my stove. So I will be able to let this simmer and then put it on keep warm. And it will kind of slowly simmer all night. And it'll be hot in the morning when I go to pack it. But it won't be, you know, burn the roof of your mouth off temperature-wise. Because it's definitely not that spice-wise. When I do the kitchen, it's like, what am I going to do about a stove? I need to start looking at them and see if I can find one. I really want a third rack in the oven. And of course, all the new ones have the ball bearing racks now. Oh, a dream. But I really want a third rack in the oven. But there's things on this stove that I don't want to give up. This stove has a steam clean setting on it. I throw a little bit of water in the bottom of the oven. Turn it on steam clean. In 20 minutes, I clean my oven. It's done. It's wonderful. But it also has low and slow. It's a dehydrator. It'll bread proof. And it has a keep warm setting. So, and it's a regular and convection. So I don't have to decide whether I want a regular oven or a convection oven. I have both on this one, and I'd like to keep that. All right, here we go. I got about 1.5 cups of heavy cream here, and I'm just going to swirl that in. And I'm going to give that a stir. And there you go. And it didn't curdle. Green chili chicken corn chowder. Thank you, Mike Chavez. Yeah, I know. I still got bacon. I know. I didn't forget the bacon. Bacon in the pot. I didn't forget the bacon. Now I'm going to put the lid on this, leave it partially open, turn it down to low, and let this just simmer for a little while before we can taste it. But I will get LG up here and give him a bowl, and you can see what his reaction is. And it may be that Art and Aaron won't get any, but this will warm you to your toes. Oh. All right. And there we go. Turn it down to low. I'll put that cover on just like that. Leave it open a little bit. And just let that simmer for a little while. And then Tom will taste it. All right, it's done. And there it is in his bowl in front of him. He has been waiting for me to make this. And now we're going to find out if it was all worth it.
Yes, I've been waiting since I saw Mike make this, and I asked Michelle to make it for me, and I've been waiting, and the time is now. So, in honor of Mike, taste. That's wonderful. Had a little bit of a bite to it. At the end, you can tell. It's my first experience with the green chili, so I'm really liking it. Very nice. Great job, Michelle. And thank you for the inspiration, Mike.
So it passes the Tom test.
It passes. Flying colors.
So am I packing this up tomorrow, or am I hiding it?
They don't want none of this. Nah. We'll let the boys try it.
All right.
We'll give them a little.
A little.
Wonderful job. Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mike.
And thank you, Mike. Yes. Taste.